Yes! Hey, ballerina girl.
On the night of July 7th, 2021, in the quiet town of Stalybridge, Greater Manchester, a mother of two was murdered inside her own home. She was stabbed to death. Her blood spilled just steps away from where her children slept. It was 3:30 in the morning when a chilling sound broke the silence. Screams came from upstairs. A friend who had been staying the night woke to chaos. She saw a man rush out the front door, but then he stopped. He turned back. By dawn, 43-year-old Tamara Padi was gone. Tamara was a woman who had built her life from scratch. South African-born, hard-working, a devoted mother who carried her daughters on her back while studying and working long hours. She was loved in her community, admired by colleagues, and respected by everyone who knew her. But in that early morning hour, all of it, her future, her dreams, her family's safety, was ripped away. And the unthinkable part? The person responsible wasn't a stranger in the night. It was someone who once vowed to love and protect her. Why would a man kill the very woman he once called his wife? Why would he wait until the middle of the night, creeping through the walls of her home only to return and strike again? And why, with her daughters asleep just feet away, did no one see the danger coming? This is not just another case. This is the story of a woman who should have been safe in her own bed, but instead became another name in a long list of black women who never made it out alive. Before we go deeper, let's honor her. Drop a candle emoji in the comments so her daughters will see that her name is remembered, her life mattered, and she is not forgotten. Don't scroll past this. Show them that people care. Because if her story fades, then what was it all for? On the evening of July 6, 2021, Tamara Padi worked late before finally heading home. She wasn't alone. A colleague had walked with her, making sure she got inside safely. It was almost 1:30 in the morning when she stepped through the door of her house on Lake Road in Stalybridge, Tameside. Her two daughters, just 15 and 10 years old, were already asleep upstairs. That night, the home should have been filled with nothing but quiet rest. Tamara was the kind of woman who carried the weight of the world for her children. She made sure they were safe. She kept her work moving forward, and even in the middle of separation, she tried to protect them from the storms of adult life. She tucked them in that night, thinking tomorrow would bring just another day. But it didn't. In the still hours of the early morning, violence erupted inside her bedroom. A friend who had stayed over was woken by screams so sharp they cut through the walls. That friend rushed to the sound but could do nothing, because by then the attack had already begun. What makes this story even harder to accept is the question at the heart of it. Who could walk into a mother's home in the middle of the night while her children slept just feet away and murder her in her own bed? Her daughters would never wake to their mother's smile again. Her family's world collapsed in the space of a few terrible minutes. And here's what will stay with you. This wasn't the work of some faceless intruder or a passing stranger. No. The truth of who stood over Tamara in those final moments is the very mystery we must unravel together. Before we continue, I want you to pause. Think about Tamara's daughters who went to bed with a mother and woke up without one. Ask yourself this: if your mother, sister, or daughter were taken like this, would you want her story to vanish into silence? If your answer is no, then prove it. Like this video, share her name. Subscribe so these stories of black women do not disappear. Leave the word justice in the comments to show her daughters the world still cares. Tamara Padi was not just a headline. She was born in South Africa, a daughter of her homeland who carried big dreams far beyond its borders. She was ambitious, determined, and willing to sacrifice comfort for a future where her children would have opportunities she never had. In 2004, she left Cape Town behind and moved with her husband to the United Kingdom. It wasn't easy to start from scratch in a new country, but Tamara was the kind of woman who turned struggle into motivation. She studied hard, earned a master's degree in law, and built a career in care, co-founding a company called Greenleaf Health and Social Care Limited. She wasn't just raising her daughters, she was creating stability, education and legacy. To her friends and colleagues, she was bubbly, outgoing, and deeply professional. She loved to travel, to laugh, and to gather with people she cared about. To her family, she was more than that. She was the anchor. She was the kind of mother who would work 2 jobs and still dance barefoot in the living room with her girls, Tia, 15, and Mia, 10. She showed up for them at every turn, pouring her energy into giving them the kind of life every mother dreams of for her children. And that is what makes this story so heartbreaking. Tamara was not reckless. She was not careless. She built a life carefully, step by step, brick by brick. She invested in her children's future, in her education, and in her home. Yet even with all of her strength, success, and determination, the danger she faced was not out in the streets. It was not a stranger. It lived much closer than anyone wanted to believe. This is the question that should trouble every single one of us. How does a woman who worked this hard, who gave so much, who carried the weight of her family on her shoulders, end up destroyed in the one place she should have been safe, her own home? Pause for a moment and think of her daughters, 2 little girls who should be leaning on their mother right now for guidance, laughter, and comfort. Instead, they are left with memories and with silence. If hearing this makes your heart ache, then do not just scroll away. Show Tamara's children that their mother's story matters. Click like, share her name, subscribe so her memory is never lost in the noise of the internet. And if you believe Black women deserve safety in their own homes, type justice for Tamara in the comments right now. Let's make sure her daughters see that strangers cared enough to remember their mother. Separated, and while Tamara was looking ahead, Aubrey refused to let go. He didn't just struggle with the breakup, he used it as an excuse to control, to threaten, to punish. Friends said Tamara wanted peace, wanted to move forward, and wanted to keep things civil for the sake of her daughters. But Aubrey's actions told a different story. He tracked her, watched her movements, and even went as far as secretly setting up voicemail monitoring on her phone. He needed to know who she spoke to, what she said, and where she went. To him, separation wasn't freedom, it was betrayal. On July 6, 2021, just one day before Tamara's death, the tension reached breaking point. Aubrey confronted her at the house and demanded to see her phone. Tamara, strong and unwilling to bow to intimidation, refused. His reaction was violence. He struck her. It was not the first time, but it would be the last time she endured it. That night, her phone lit up with a flood of messages. Some of them read like apologies, the words of a man begging forgiveness. But woven in between were chilling threats, warnings that this was the last time she would disrespect him. It was the pattern of abuse so many recognize, charm and apologies used as cover for rage and control. And it leaves us with a haunting question. What was he so desperate to find in that phone? Was it jealousy, fear of losing control, or simply the belief that he still owned her? We may never know the full answer, but what we do know is that a woman's right to live in peace ended that night when he decided her independence was an insult. If you're listening right now and you've ever minimized controlling behavior or brushed off a friend's concerns about their partner demanding passwords, checking calls, or showing up uninvited, Tamara's story is the warning you cannot ignore. Please, stop and hit like. Share this video. Subscribe, not just for another story, but because spreading Tamara's truth could save another woman's life. And if you've ever said, "That could never be me," remember, Tamara once thought the same. Her daughters deserve to see that strangers cared enough to fight for their mother's memory. Type justice for Tamara in the comments and let them know her life mattered. It's shortly after 1:30 a.m. when Tamara arrives home. She lets herself in quietly, stepping past a sleeping colleague on the couch downstairs. Her daughters are upstairs in their beds, wrapped in dreams, unaware that their mother's quiet return will become the last time they ever saw her alive. But the real story isn't about Tamara. It's about who's already waiting inside. Aubrey let himself into the house earlier, slipping past locks and night. He didn't just arrive, he hid, in the shadows of her own home. He came prepared, with a set of knives, a thick metal exercise bar, gloves, even cord. things someone gathers when they intend harm. The court found that he arranged them neatly in the hallway, as if making a grim toolkit. Then he did something chilling. He set his phone alarm. Not to wake him for a meeting, but to wake him so he could strike. It was calculated. He waited, hands trembling maybe, or steady, listening, waiting, knowing his daughters slept just a few rooms away. He was in her house, in the space built for safety. And when Tamara walked through the door, she walked straight into the trap he had laid for her. Her own home was no longer a haven. It had become a scene of danger that she couldn't have imagined. What kind of man lays out weapons, hides in the dark, and sets an alarm in a house where his kids are sleeping? This depth of planning didn't happen on impulse. It was chosen. Moments away from disaster, right inside the bedroom where he once kissed her goodnight. If this story unsettles you, let it push you to acknowledge what many try to hide. Separation doesn't always mean safety. When power, control, and obsession persist, walls can't shield a woman from what's inside. If you're watching and you know someone who's scared of their ex, or facing unwanted control, even if they seem safe, this is their warning. Don't wait for screams. If you feel that knot in your gut, act. Share this story now. Hit like. Subscribe. And in the comments say, "I see you, Tamara," to honor the courage she never got to show. Show her daughters that strangers stood with her when it mattered most. He left once. He could have stopped. But when he heard her cry out again, he turned back. In the darkness of that bedroom, just feet from their sleeping daughters, he unleashed a brutal attack. Tamara was struck with a solid metal exercise bar, her own bed becoming the scene of a nightmare. She must have tried to defend herself. Defensive wounds later showed her strength even in her final moments. He paused, thinking she was gone. Then another scream, another turn, and he climbed the stairs again. That's when he used the blade he'd carried in, stabbing her not once, not twice, but 8 times. By the time paramedics arrived, summoned by her friend downstairs, Tamara was no longer breathing. She was taken to the hospital, but her injuries were too severe. She was declared dead shortly after. The violence that night didn't just end a marriage, it destroyed a family and etched a void in her children's lives that no sentence can fill. What compels someone to return and strike again in the darkness? What impulse feeds the second, colder surge of violence? To watch this and stay silent empties this story of meaning. Tamara's daughters need to know that people saw her and that her fight did not end in silence. If you feel this in your chest, the ache, the injustice, hit like, subscribe, and share her story. Comment, "Justice for Tamara," to let her family know her life mattered, beyond a headline. This is where empathy turns into action, and her memory finds voice. When the police arrived, they found Tamara gone, but they didn't have to search long for answers. A few houses down, Aubrey called 9.99 himself. On that call, his voice was calm. He said, "I'm sorry for what I've done, but she deserved it." That is not the confession of a broken person. It's a statement drenched in entitlement. A man deciding that murder was a justified response. Hours later, Greater Manchester Police formally charged him with her murder. By July 10, 2021, he was standing in custody, booked and awaiting court. The separation, the demands, the violence, all now had moved from whispers into full exposure. He didn't flee. He didn't hide in regret. He called the police himself. And in doing so, he confirmed the worst, that this was no tragic accident. It was a calculated act of violence fueled by belief that a woman's desire for independence could be punished. Ask yourself, what kind of conviction drives someone to admit to a crime so openly, yet still assign blame to the victim? This is the moment where justice takes its first tangible breath, not just for Tamara, but for her children who deserve a father who protects, not destroys. If your heart can't let go of someone having to say those words, "She deserved it," then don't let this end in silence. Click like. Share this video so her life doesn't vanish from memory. Subscribe for her daughters and for every woman whose voice was silenced. And in the comments write, "I can't believe he said that." Yes, let disbelief unite us all in demanding justice. The court didn't just hear a guilty plea. It heard every detail of the plan. It heard how he let himself into Tamara's home, hid inside, armed himself with weapons, and set his alarm to strike while his children slept. The judge's words cut through the pain with clarity. You set your alarm to wake you before you killed your wife. While your daughter lay in the next room, you lay waiting to murder her mother. That's not fiction, that's what was said in court. It's an indictment of cold calculation. When the sentence came, it was just as sharp. Life in prison, with a minimum of 23 years before parole. His actions had robbed two little girls of not only their mother but their trust in the man who pledged to protect them. This was the legal system delivering the harshest reality. Love turned lethal, and justice had to follow. The judge called the crime unforgivable and selfish. He reminded the world that this wasn't an isolated crime. It was a breakdown of everything a family is supposed to be. She was killed in her own bed, stabbed while trying to sleep, and her partner knew exactly what he was doing. That judgment stands, not as victory, but a reminder that justice can speak when silence fails. Because of that court record, Tamara's daughters have a future where their mother's name doesn't vanish. And we must honor that legacy by refusing to forget. If this story unsettles you, if you refuse to allow another black woman's memory to be erased, subscribe now, share her story far and wide, and let the world know her life cannot be silenced. Comment justice for Tamara and stand with her daughters today. Two little girls went to sleep with both parents. By sunrise, they had none. This was not just a tragedy, it was an erasure of family in a single night. Tamara's daughters, Tia and Mia, were left navigating a world without the warmth of their mother and with the anguish of betrayal by someone they called father. Back in South Africa, Tamara's family, her sister Lulama among them, scrambled to bring the girls home. Under their culture, sealing a loved one's clothing properly matters. Now, even her clothes are stuck abroad, delayed by visa struggles and COVID-era limits. Her sister has volunteered to care for the girls, but the legal system has slowed the process. Every delay further prolongs the void in their lives. In Greater Manchester, the community grieves. Friends speak of Tamara's laughter, her ease, her spirit that lit every room. They now promise to carry her love forward, step in as surrogate mentors and guardians to the girls she adored. Let that sink in. Two children mourning their mother, pulled between continents, culture, grief, and confusion. If you've ever been moved by the loss of someone you love, or compelled to protect a child from pain, don't look away now. Show up for them. Hit like, share, subscribe. In the comments, drop the word legacy so Tia and Mia can someday see that the world held their mother dear, even when she couldn't be there to tuck them in. Warning signs don't appear out of nowhere. They often begin small and build into what becomes unbearable. In Tamara's case, red flags were already present long before that fatal night. He monitored her voicemails. He demanded her phone and struck her when she resisted. He sent messages that veered between apologies and threats. That wasn't devotion. It was control. In abusive relationships, behaviors like demanding access to someone's phone, controlling their calls or messages, or showing up unannounced under the guise of concern are not signs of care. They're warnings. According to domestic violence experts, constant checking of texts and emails, insisting on knowing your every move, or isolating you from friends and family are among the top indicators of a relationship in danger. Every time someone minimizes these signs because it's not that bad, they risk repeating a story like Tamara's. She endured psychological manipulation and violence. She showed strength and tried to move forward, but those around her didn't see the alarm until it was too late. If someone in your life is being monitored, controlled, or afraid to say no, do not wait. Do not say it's not your business because it is. Encourage them to call the National Domestic Violence Hotline in the US at 800-799-7233. If you're unsure what to do, call anyway. Your voice could be the one that pulls them back from silence. Please, if Tamara's journey makes your chest tighten, don't stay quiet. Hit like, share this video. Subscribe so we can keep naming women who deserve safety in their own homes. In the comments say, I see you, even when others didn't. Be the presence that matters before it's too late. In December 2021, the courtroom reached its conclusion. Aubrey, Tamara's husband and the father of her 2 little girls, was sentenced to life in prison. The judge ruled he would serve a minimum of 23 years before he could even be considered for release. 23 years, yet for Tamara's daughters the sentence is lifelong. They will carry the absence of their mother into every birthday, every school milestone, every moment when they should feel her presence beside them. The judge's words were searing. Aubrey had planned this killing, had set an alarm to wake him, and executed his wife in cold blood while their daughter slept in the next room. He stole Tamara's future and left his own children to grow up without either parent. Justice was served in law, but true justice, that is something no sentence can ever restore. Tamara's name should never be reduced to the word victim. She was a proud South African-born woman who built a life in the UK. She was a mother who lived for her daughters, a daughter herself cherished by family an ocean away. A woman with dreams, laughter, and love that should have carried her far into the future. The legacy of Tamara is not found in court papers or in a minimum term. It's in her girls, 2 children who deserve to grow up knowing their mother's story, not just her tragedy. And it's in us, the ones left to remember, to speak her name, and to fight against the silence that allows stories like this to repeat. He will spend at least 23 years behind bars, but Tamara's daughters will spend every day without their mother. Justice on paper will never equal justice in their hearts. If this story moved you, don't just click away. Subscribe, share this story, and type remembered below so her family knows Tamara's life mattered. If her name fades, then what was it all for?